The first thing you hear is the crying, a child's voice, high-pitched, panicked. "Mama, don't let them take you." The body cam footage shakes as an officer adjusts his vest. On the curb, under the harsh glare of a patrol car light, sits Tasha Reynolds, wrists cuffed, head bowed, still wearing her scrubs from a 12-hour shift. Her two kids huddle beside her, tears streaking their faces. Across the street, her landlord stands with arms folded, watching with something that looks a little too much like satisfaction. "You're being charged with trespassing," the officer says flatly. "You're not the legal tenant here." Tasha lifts her head, looks straight into the camera. "I paid rent, I have receipts. Why won't anyone listen?" The screen freezes on her face. Smash cut, title card. And then we rewind, 3 months earlier. Tasha Reynolds never thought much about her apartment building. It wasn't fancy, a 3-story brick block on the east side of Greenville. The hallways smelled faintly of bleach and fried chicken, and the elevator made a groan every time it stopped on the second floor. But it was home. She was a nursing assistant at St. Mary's Hospital, pulling doubles more often than not. The apartment wasn't just her shelter, it was her kids' world. Homework at the kitchen table, birthday candles on the counter, Sunday cartoons on a hand-me-down couch. The rent was manageable because of the city's rent stabilization program. Landlords couldn't just hike the price or push people out. For families like Tasha's, it was a lifeline. But for landlords, it was a ceiling they hated. The first sign was small. One morning, she found a bright red paper taped to her door. Notice of inspection, 72 hours. No reason given. Just an order. She mentioned it to Jerome Carter, the retired postal worker who lived downstairs. Jerome was the building's unofficial historian. 40 years in the neighborhood, 30 in the building. He knew every trick landlords used. "They're fishing," Jerome said, leaning on his cane. "Trying to catch you on a violation. Don't give them anything." Tasha laughed it off. But the inspections kept coming, first for smoke detectors, then for water meter checks, then for routine maintenance. Every time, men in polo shirts and clipboards walked through her apartment, jotting down notes but never fixing anything. One of them looked at her kids' drawings taped to the wall and said casually, "Nice place. People like you don't usually stay here long." Tasha felt the sting. She didn't respond. If you've ever had someone tell you, without saying the words, that you don't belong, you know the weight Tasha carried. Stay with me, because this story doesn't stop at inspections. And while you're here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the rest. The second sign came with the rent. Tasha always paid electronically, same day each month. On June 1st, she logged in, sent the payment, saved the confirmation email. Done. But a week later, she opened her mailbox and froze. Another red paper. Notice of non-payment, balance due, $1,400. Her stomach dropped. She called the property office immediately. "Must be a glitch," the receptionist said lightly. "Bring in your receipt and we'll sort it out." She brought the receipt the next morning. The manager glanced at it, tapped her keyboard and said, "Strange, it's not showing in the system." Tasha pushed the paper across the desk. "It's right here, confirmation code, paid." The manager gave her a polite smile that wasn't polite at all. "We'll look into it." But they never did. By July, the red papers multiplied. Inspection, late notice, balance due. Jerome pulled her aside one evening in the hallway. "This is the same game they played on me in '09. Lost records, fake notices. They're building a case to say you don't live here legally." Tasha shook her head. "But I have proof." Jerome sighed. "Proof don't matter if they control the system." The breaking point came on a Thursday night. Tasha had just finished a 12-hour shift. Her kids were doing homework at the table when there was a knock on the door. 3 officers. "Are you Tasha Reynolds?" one asked. She nodded. "You're under arrest for trespassing. Landlord says you're not on the lease." Her kids screamed as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. Neighbors peeked through door chains. Someone filmed on their phone. And just like that, everything shifted. She wasn't a tenant anymore. She was a suspect. Jail was a blur, cold benches, metallic toilets, officers who didn't care about her receipts. But Jerome did. He showed up the next morning with a folder. Inside were his own rent receipts, decades worth, along with copies of eviction notices the landlord had taped to other tenants' doors over the years. Every single one targeted people like them, families of color, immigrants, seniors on fixed incomes. "This ain't about you," Jerome said firmly. "This is about money. They want us gone so they can jack up rent." This is where most folks give up, where the system convinces you you're powerless. But if you've ever fought to keep a roof over your head, you know why Tasha didn't stop. Share this video because housing injustice thrives in silence. The hearing came 2 weeks later. The landlord's lawyer painted Tasha as a squatter, claimed she forged documents, said her payments were fabricated. Tasha sat silent until her attorney slid a stack of papers onto the table. Bank statements, email confirmations, time-stamped proof of payment. But the real blow came from Jerome. When he testified, he pulled out binders, decades of records, notices taped to doors, complaints ignored by city officials, patterns of harassment that stretched back years. And then the kicker, maintenance logs showing that while tenants like Tasha were flagged for violations, new, wealthier tenants had their move-ins expedited. The judge leaned back. It appears there's a consistent pattern here. The landlord's lawyer stammered. The landlord sat stiff, jaw tight. The case unraveled. Tasha was cleared of trespassing, charges dropped, the landlord fined for clerical negligence. But fines didn't erase the damage. Her mugshot had already circulated. Neighbors still looked at her sideways. Her kids still remembered crying on the curb. She stayed 6 more weeks before packing up and moving across town. But she didn't walk away quietly. Jerome introduced her to the tenant union he'd been part of for years. This time, Tasha joined not as a victim, but as a fighter. She started documenting cases, coaching new tenants on how to keep meticulous records, showing them her eviction notices as proof. She kept one taped above her desk at the union office, the first one, the one that said inspection. 72 hours. She'd point to it and say, "This paper almost cost me everything. But now, it's evidence. Don't let them tell you what you know is a lie. Write it down. Save it. One day, it could be the reason you win." The camera fades on her kids running around a small new apartment, smaller but safe. And the last shot lingers on that notice, taped to the wall, a reminder of what she survived and what others are still fighting. Stories like this aren't rare, they're just rarely told. If you stayed with me, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments if you've ever seen housing injustice up close. Because every story shared makes it harder for systems like this to hide.